let's get into Middle-earth. It's just so whimsy. I love hobbits. Okay, low-key, why is Lord of the Rings a musical? Oh my gosh, it breaks me every single time. Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. I am so excited for this reading vlog because I'm about to read the most influential fantasy series of all time. In this video, I'm going to read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. I am really excited. So my history with Lord of the Rings is I first watched all of the movies and I absolutely love them. They are so good. And then I read the books, but that was a very long time ago. I honestly think that when I did read them, I was maybe a little bit too young, or I just didn't really get as much out of them as I should have. So now I really want to reread this entire series and share the journey, experience it with you guys in this reading vlog, and that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to start with the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm going to make my way through the trilogy, and we'll see if I have time at the end of this reading vlog to also fit in The Hobbit, but no promises. The filming schedule might say otherwise, but we'll see what happens. I also don't want to rush through these books. I really want to take my time and enjoy them and fully immerse myself, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So I did get this beautiful box set for myself. It was actually a Christmas gift to myself because I thought, you know, why not treat myself? But these are absolutely gorgeous. They are illustrated. So first of all, the covers of these are stunning. This one is the Fellowship of the Ring. Even inside the book, there aren't that many illustrations. It's not like a graphic novel by any means, but we do have some gorgeous illustrations just scattered throughout the book. And something else I noticed about this copy, I was flipping through, but everything that is in Elvish, in the Elven language, is actually printed in a red font. And I just think that is such a cool idea. I think that is so fun. It's such a small thing that you could add to the printing, to the text of your book that just elevates your experience even more. I don't know why I got so excited when I saw that Elvish words were printed in red. It made me really excited. But yeah, I'm actually going to take the dust jacket off while reading though, because these dust jackets are gorgeous and I don't want to like bend them, fold them, ruin them, anything. So I'm going to read all of these books naked. I also do want to mention that I'm going to make this video not necessarily spoiler free. 99% of my reading vlogs are spoiler free, so you know, everyone can watch them without the fear of being spoiled. But I feel like with the Lord of the Rings, it's such a classic story. You know, most of us at this point, at least like most of us who enjoy fantasy, have either watched the movies or read the books, so you know the story. And so while I'm reading through, I am not going to be like careful with not revealing things or referring to specific events that happen in the story. All that to say, let's get into Middle-earth. I'm so excited. I didn't have that much time to read today because I was working. I had a lot of videos to edit and all that, but I did manage to read 15 pages during my lunch break today, which was basically the entire prologue, and I just have to say, Tolkien is probably the only author who can actually pull off starting out a book with a 16-page prologue that is basically just a huge info dump on random facts about hobbits. Only Tolkien can do that and make me love those 16 pages of info dumping about hobbits and their lore. It just took me right into the world, you know? Like, I was just giggling reading all of these Hobbit facts, and just like how it's written too, the prologue literally opens up with, "This book is largely concerned with hobbits." And then it goes on to say things like, "Hobbits are an unobtrusive but very ancient people, more numerous formerly than they are today, for they love peace and quiet and good-tilled earth. A well-ordered and well-farmed countryside was their favorite haunt. They are quick of hearing and sharp-eyed, and though they are inclined to be fat and do not hurry unnecessarily, they are nonetheless nimble and deft in their movements." Like, it's It's just so whimsy. I love Hobbits. I love this world so much. But yeah, anyways, I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed that huge info dump if I didn't already love the Middle-earth world and this universe. But, you know, I'm reading this with the lens of an already existing love for this world, and it was just wonderful. But anyways, I'm gonna have some dinner and then read more of this tonight and actually get into like chapter 1 and the story of the Fellowship of the Ring. I feel like I'm just living my best life, you guys. Last night while I was reading this, I put on the Fellowship of the Ring soundtrack, and the second the notes of the Shire hit my ears and I was reading the words that are, you know, on the page in this book, I was just like, what did I ever do in life to deserve this? It was such a wonderful moment. Anyways, I am 70 pages in now. I have been taking this quite slow, as I mentioned. I just really want to enjoy this experience. We are just about to embark on our adventure. We are only just leaving the Shire in this moment, but the level of detail that we got just in the first little bit of this book is honestly baffling to me. The movie adaptations of the Lord of the Rings story is so deeply ingrained in my head that for me, it feels like such a change. Reading the story in this very whimsical feeling writing style and also just like spending more time in these moments, I am really enjoying just learning about hobbits and their society and how they have formed these hobbit civilizations. It's something that we don't really explore in the movie. Hobbits just seem like these quirky type of characters that are maybe a little bit shorter than the average person, but in the book you truly learn about them and they truly feel like a different species with an entirely different culture and all of these details. Like when a hobbit celebrates their birthday, they don't actually receive presents from people, they actually have to give presents to everyone else. Just little quirks like that, and seeing how this hobbit society functions and how they interact with each other and what their hierarchy system is just so interesting. But we're definitely setting off on our adventure now. I always just find it so baffling how in the book story there is a 17-year gap between the birthday party at the beginning of the story to when they actually set off, and that is a really long gap. But it honestly makes a lot of sense in the book because yes, things like this, long journeys, they take time. You need to put a plan in place. You need to find some sort of an excuse or like to tell people around you where you're going. And I honestly always found it a little bit jolting when Frodo sets off at the beginning. I feel like it does happen very quickly in the movie, but I've gotten so used to it happening so quickly that now I'm like, as I'm reading the story and seeing it happen a lot slower and seeing a lot more planning being put into place and details being arranged, I'm like, yeah, this makes so much more sense. Nothing against the movie. I mean, the movies are long enough. I understand they had to cut things out, but it's just very fulfilling. Reading the full story, remembering all of these details, and I'm gonna continue reading The Fellowship. I feel like I need to put some more Shire music on. I really do just love how quickly this goes from, ooh, we have to get away from the Black Rider, to, ooh, let's have our second supper of the night, and how hobbits have a passion for mushrooms. Oh, it's just so much fun. Okay, low-key, why is Lord of the Rings a musical? Why is it secretly a musical? I feel like it's just so classics style for books to have a lot of song within them, or poetry, or plays, or, you know, like different styles of writing mixed within a single book. I feel like that is just so classics feeling, and there's so much emphasis on music and songs throughout this entire book, whether those songs are part of the history, part of the lore of the world, or honestly if they are like magical on their own. There have been multiple moments where our characters are in a dire situation and what saves them essentially is a song. And It's feeling very made up, but in a really fun way. But it is interesting how they took out that element of music in the movie adaptation, especially in the original trilogy. I do think they had a little bit more emphasis on the music in The Hobbit, and I know we're all familiar with Aragorn's song. Yeah, it is interesting. I'm not actually serious when I say that I feel like Lord of the Rings should have been a musical when it was adapted, but yeah, they had to really readjust quite a few things and events and how they happened because they didn't want the movie to feel like a straight musical because there's so much music in the book. It's also interesting how they have combined so many different characters into one in the movie. Like in the book, there are so many different characters that don't exist in the movie universe, but to get certain plot points going, they've just combined two characters into one character for the purpose of just simplifying things. And just one last note while we're thinking about movie to book comparison, something similar between the two are that hobbits they do need a lot of help. I think that is really present in the book and the movie, where the hobbits will just get themselves into all sorts of situations, and their one rescue, their one escape is always someone else saving them. Especially, I guess, more so in the beginning of the story. I know as we get further down in the trilogy, the hobbits, you know, they learn things, they start being able to defend themselves in different ways, but they're very much just very sheltered little creatures, and it does feel realistic that they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, they've never explored outside of the Shire, so they're like, I don't even know which direction I'm supposed to be walking in. And that's feeling very genuine in the book. But then also alongside that idea, basically like most of the story of The Lord of the Rings, I feel like, is that one journey, you know, one really big long walk from one end of the world to the other end of the world. And I'm finding it interesting how the book and the movie have portrayed that long walk differently, or given that feeling of, yeah, this is a really long walk in different ways. So in the movie, it's done really just in being able to see the expanse of it in these really wide shots where you can see this massive environment of like, yeah, our characters are in the middle of nowhere. But in the book, I feel like it's done more in the sense of seeing all the characters that we meet along the way. And we have like a little sleepover with a lot of the characters we encounter along the way. And those moments are just so much more drawn out. And there's so many more of those in the book. A lot of that has been stripped out in the movie. So they're both they're so different feeling, but the essence of them is the same. And I feel like that has been done so well in the movie. It's just one of those situations. If the movie was so true to the book, the movie would probably be not that great or a little bit boring because they're in different mediums. So that's just something I've been mulling over in my head, because a lot of the time when we get book to screen adaptations, a lot of us, you know, think as long as it stays true to the source material, then it will be good. But I feel like this franchise is one of those franchises that really proves, no, that's not always the case. Sometimes when you change something drastically but still hold true to the essence of the main story, sometimes that is the better way. But yeah, all in all, I'm still having the time of my life reading this. I really want to do a movie marathon after I finish this trilogy as well, but I have about 100 pages I think remaining in the Fellowship, so I'm gonna read those 100 pages and then I guess we'll get into the Two Towers. Ugh, the use of the word doom in the Mines of Moria to represent like the sound of the drums, the doom doom doom, but also using it as like, yes, we are feeling this feeling of impending doom is so good in this part. The downfall of Boromir and then Sam chasing after Frodo in the boat is so powerful. It gets me every time. I am surprised at how different Boromir's like ending in this book is compared to the movie. Like, we have his downfall, but I mean, that scene in the movie of Boromir like fighting to the death is so powerful. I completely forgot that that wasn't in the book, or at least not in the Fellowship of the Ring. I now really just, you know, I need to read on and move on to the Two Towers. But that was such a wonderful experience. I truly think this book is such a masterpiece. It is so good. Again, it's just so influential. It has inspired so many other fantasy series. Frodo is just like the reluctant hero. He does not want to be there. He did not ask for this quest one bit. Even at this point, he's not even like, I need to go now and save the world because this responsibility has been thrust upon me and I'm gonna be a hero. He's honestly still just like, I'm only doing this because I have to, because it's the only option basically. But he really doesn't want to be there, and you can really see in the book and in the movie, but I think especially in the book, you can see where his heart is and how torn he is and how he's just like, I just would love to pick the easy way out and go back to the Shire or go back to Rivendell and just live a safe, happy life and give this burden to someone else. But he knows that he can't, and he has to be the one, and that hits so much harder in the books. But that's the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm gonna pick up the Two Towers next. This one seems short. How many pages is this one? So Fellowship of the Ring was 405 pages. This one says the last page is 740. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So because Tolkien wrote this entire trilogy as one book originally, but was turned away from publishing it as one book because the publishers were like, we can't print a book that's that long. And they actually made him split into a trilogy. The beginning of this book actually starts on page like 400 and something, because the page numbers, staying true to the origin of the story, start at like page 400 and something, which is kind of a fun touch. It's like, when have you ever picked up a book and started it at page 400? I guess this book is about 330 pages long. I'll give you a little look at this lovely edition and the artwork on the cover. So eerie, so dark. We do have our favorite little spider on the front there. The Two Towers movie has always been the weakest for me in terms of the story. I remember the first time I watched The Two Towers, I was like quite young, not like young, but kind of young. And I remember feeling just very bored during The Two Towers, but I have rewatched the movies obviously in my adult years, and I find that in my adult years I appreciate The Two Towers a lot more. So I'm really curious to see what the written story is like in The Two Towers. We definitely get a lot of character arc, I think, in this one, because our company, our fellowship, has split apart, and now our hobbits do need to sort of learn how to find their way on their own, although they do still tend to rely on guides. Like throughout the entire journey, they just keep finding guide after guide after guide up until the very end, honestly. And then only at the very end do I feel like they actually stand on their own for the most part. But we love a good Hobbit arc and how they find their strength and how they find their own ways in the world. So gonna get into The Two Towers next. I am living truly my best life. Okay, so Boromir does go the way he goes in the movie, but it happens so similarly, but also happens so different. So yeah, he goes the same way, but interesting that in the books it happens at the beginning of Two Towers versus near the end of the Fellowship, which I think it was stronger placed over there. And also I'm really surprised that for the majority of his demise, it happens off page for the most part. And yeah, that's really shocking to me, because in the movie that scene is so powerful and it's such a redemption moment, you know? I'm just so surprised that it happens for the most part off page in the book. But I'm still just nibbling away at the beginning of The Two Towers. I am really enjoying the story so far. It does feel different because our group is split apart, so we're no longer following just the perspective of various hobbits. So far we've only had Aragorn's perspective, really, so it does feel very much like a different book. It definitely feels a lot less whimsical, because I feel like the hobbits are the ones that bring the whimsy into the story, so it's feeling a lot more grown up in a way. But like the Fellowship felt grown up but also felt childish at the same time. But this one so far, yeah, is just feeling older and more mature. And I'm also really loving the immediate theme of like nature. Obviously there's a big significance with trees, but that theme of respecting the nature around you and how there's power and a soul to everything is already really present in this one. So I have a feeling I'm really gonna love this book. So a little update, I mean, kind of a big update, but I did basically binge The Two Towers over this weekend. I could not stop reading it, and I am done. So I started this on Friday, and then I just read on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is Monday morning now, and I finished The Two Towers. I just couldn't stop reading it, but obviously I have not updated you in a while, so let's have a little bit of a debrief now on this second book. The tone overall feels a lot darker. I also am just very surprised at the structure of this book and how it was told. So as a little refresher, if you forgot what happened in The Two Towers, this book covers the journey of when our company splits up. So Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, they go off on their own. Merry and Pippin have been taken hostage by orcs, and Frodo and Sam have left as their own little mini team of two to go into the depths of Mordor. So we have these three groups that are doing different things alongside one another, and in the movie we are shown this through interweaving POVs. We jump back and forth. It's very much everything is happening simultaneously, right? But we're just jumping back and forth between all of our different groups. But in the book, all of those stories are told as their own compact, condensed little tale. And then once we have concluded like those character stories, then we go back in time, and then we follow what the other group was doing during that time. So we don't actually get Frodo and Sam in this book until like 60% in the book. And I was very surprised at that, because I was reading it. I think after I read the first 3 or 4 chapters, I was like, okay, I guess we're following these characters first. But by chapter 5, I was like, where's Frodo? Where are Frodo and Sam? Are they not in this book? And I was so surprised. But then, yeah, I realized Tolkien just wanted to cover Merry and Pippin's story and Gimli and Legolas and Aragorn's story first before we traversed back in time and went over to what our main Hobbit friends were doing. And that just got me thinking, because as I'm going through these books, I am obviously reading these with a predetermined love for these books that I already know I have. I love the story. I'm very familiar with what happens. So I will never be able to read these books as someone going into them fresh and not knowing what will happen. And I was just thinking, like, I had the patience, you know, I know what Frodo and Sam do in their journey. So I wasn't really scared for them, I guess, but I do wonder what I would feel if I had to read Merry and Pippin's stories first and Aragorn and company's stories first, not knowing what is happening to Frodo and Sam for the majority of this book. I feel like that would have just created this feeling of suspense, of mystery, of what is going on with them if I was experiencing this story for the first time. So that was just very interesting. I feel like so unconventional for like modern storytelling these days. I feel like authors wouldn't do that now, where they tell you one story first and then another story. I guess Sarah J. Maas kind of did it in the Throne of Glass series, where we had 2 separate books, like the whole Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storm situation, where we tell one story first and then the next book we tell another story. I guess that's probably the closest that I've seen in terms of a recent author doing that within the past like 20 years. But I feel like the majority of authors these days would do just jumping POVs. But I do kind of respect and appreciate Tolkien for doing it this way, because you do get more focused stories doing it this way, where you conclude one group's arc and then you jump to the next arc and then you jump to the next arc, and it doesn't feel like it drags on that way. Everything happens quite quickly. I mean, as quick as it can for a classic. So I think I actually enjoyed that. It was very different, and I feel like diving into classics, that's kind of what you are expecting. You're just expecting a little bit of a different experience versus modern day books. And then in terms of the story itself, I do think I have gained such an appreciation for this second book. I think one of my main issues with it when I was younger is I was always just so frustrated at Frodo in the movie when he like turned his back on Sam and just trusted Gollum over Sam. And although like while I do understand why they did it in the movie, it made Sam's arc that much stronger when he sticks by Frodo's side. And I understand what they were trying to do with, you know, Frodo being influenced by the ring and then also sort of being able to relate to Gollum in ways, but I was still very annoyed at Frodo during like the entire second movie. So then, now that I've come to read their story in the book, I am so surprised that none of that basically is in the book. That whole dynamic of Frodo not trusting Sam anymore, leaving Sam behind, that is not in the books at all. We do have a little bit of the like Sam not liking Gollum and Sam being like, this is a bad idea to trust him. But in the books, their dynamic together, their journey together is so different. It's more of a manipulation of Gollum, and Frodo is very intentionally using the ring to string Gollum along. And while he does feel a little bit of, you know, pity kind of for Gollum in the books, it's mostly a manipulation story, and Frodo's in on it, Sam's in on it. They're both very aware that they are just like dragging Gollum along and using him, and so we never get that like separation with Frodo and Sam in the books. And I kind of like the book way better because Frodo's not being annoying. He's not annoying me, and he does have his weaknesses. You know, we do see a little bit of his like feeling bad for Gollum, but it's not so overboard that it makes me feel frustrated. But yeah, overall, I think the story is just so good. Yet the manipulation side of it, the emotional arcs that our characters have gone on. We have Merry and Pippin who have grown and kind of paved their own path in a different way. We have more of that friendship bond between Legolas and Gimli. We have the whole theme of nature coming back and fighting for itself. I do have a newfound appreciation for the Two Towers, so I definitely enjoyed this book a lot. But that being said, that means we're gonna dive into The Return of the King, the conclusion to the story. This one is also gorgeous. Let me show you the back as well. So I am also going to take off this dust jacket and read it naked, of course. Ooh, we have a closer cropped map in this one. The funny thing about Return of the King is, like, we all know the movie The Return of the King is like the longest movie ever. So when I looked at the thickness of this book, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. This is the thickest of the 3 books. So I was like, yeah, we're in for a long journey. But I did just recently kind of flip through it, not reading it, not spoiling myself, not that I can really spoil myself. I was just like looking through, you know, looking at the pictures, the illustrations of the book, and I realized that the story of this book only goes up to about here. And then this entire last thick chunk of the book, which I want to say is just under a third of the book, it's all like appendices. It's just all information. It's all extra lore. So we have Appendix A, where we're talking about lore of the different areas and more history in the world. And then we have Appendix B, which is a chronological timeline of all of the events in this world. And then we have Appendix C, which is like, it looks like family trees, familial lines. And then we just go on and on and on for hundreds of pages of additional information. So I'm like, I guess the actual bulk of the story of the 3rd book isn't that long. It's about the same length as the 2nd one, but we just have a lot of lore at the end of the book. But I have a lot of editing to do today, so I'm gonna have a big work day, and then later, hopefully, or maybe a little bit on my lunch break, I can dive into The Return of the King. Oh my god, this book is so good. I feel like, I mean, as to be expected for a 3rd book in the series, but all of the character arcs are coming back around and fully completing, and I feel like the 3rd books, the finales of series, are always the most emotionally engaging because of everything coming full circle and everything's happening. I mean, the Faramir plotline oh my gosh, it breaks me every single time. I think that is such a powerful story. I also obviously love Éowyn's story as well. And just everyone, all of our characters. I am honestly a little bit surprised because Arwen doesn't have that big of a role in the books, at least not in the first 2, and I haven't really seen much of her in this 3rd one yet. I'm on page 828, whatever that means. And yeah, Arwen just doesn't have a role really at all in the books. Like, she's mentioned a few times, but we haven't really seen her that much. And in terms of the whole like Aragorn love interest thing, we definitely see a lot more of Éowyn in the books versus Arwen, and they played up Arwen a lot in the movies, I guess, which I think was a good idea because I really enjoyed the Aragorn Arwen arc. But I just want to read this one paragraph to you. It's like a small paragraph, but I just read it and I just got chills. We are in Gondor and we have Gandalf and Pippin with us, but mainly Gandalf in this moment. We're in the middle of this really intense battle moment. Things are not looking good, but Gandalf has stepped in and he has just banished one of the Black Riders, essentially. And so in the midst of all this chaos, we get this moment that reads, Gandalf did not move, and in that very moment, away behind in some courtyard of the city, a cock crowed, recking nothing of wizardry or war, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. And as if in answer, there came from far away another note. Horns, horns, horns. In dark Mindolian's sides they dimly echoed, great horns of the north wildly blowing. Rohan had come at last. Chills. Chills. So Merry wakes up from a near-death experience, and this is literally the first thing he says. I am hungry. What is the time? Guys, what do you mean? This journey is almost over. What do you mean? I feel like I'm gonna be so sad when I finish this book and I have no more Lord of the Rings material to read. Actually, I probably will end up picking up The Hobbit after this. I need an extension, but I have about, I want to say 70 to 80 pages left in The Return of the King, and we're basically already at the epilogue part, you know? I was in bed last night and I read those big final moments of finishing up our quest, finishing up all the battles, and now we are just in those little epilogue moments, and I don't want it to end. I feel like this book in particular, the third one, the parallels were paralleling. All of the things were coming around full circle, which again, as I mentioned, we do expect in a third book, but they were just so incredible in this one. I mean, first of all, this is truly Sam's book. Frodo's not even the main character for me anymore, because during Frodo and Sam's, like, the end of their journey, we really only get Sam's POV, literally, and we see the whole event through Sam's perspective, and the character arc that Sam goes on is incredible. I feel like it's so cool with the dynamic of Gollum joining their party and then influencing Frodo and influencing Sam in different ways. I feel like it's all just so clever, where Frodo was able to empathize with Gollum at the beginning and Sam wasn't getting it at all, but then when he started to experience a little bit of, you know, what the power of the ring really gave him, then at the end he was really able to sort of understand a little bit of what Gollum had gone through a little bit more at the end, and that's why he spared him at the end, and that's why the ring was actually able to be destroyed, because if Sam killed off Gollum, Frodo would have kept the ring. The whole theme of just like keeping people alive, kind of, or sparing them, and, you know, maybe they will have a purpose for the greater good in the end, really carried on through the whole book and was really a lot more evident in the book compared to the movies, like with Gandalf, even at the very beginning, even at Fellowship, being like, oh, would you really kill Gollum? Like, would you really get rid of him just because of what he's gone through? Or like, maybe we should spare him. And then also going back to Sam, very close to the end, he did have this moment of having this sort of Gollum-like conversation with himself, because we know Gollum is a character that is, you know, he has two sides, and his two sides talk to one another. He has this banter that's within his brain, but also manifests physically out loud. That's a big part of Gollum's character. And at the end, Sam had this little debate with himself where he kind of spoke, I don't know if it was out loud or if it was just in his mind, but it was written in the form of dialogue back and forth with two different sides of himself. And reading that, I was like, this hits so hard because this is so Gollum of him. And then shortly after that moment is the moment when he decided, hey, Gollum, I'm gonna spare you because I pity you. I understand a little bit of what you've gone through. And so that was just done so well in the way that Sam's character went through all of that. Oh, it's so good. Even just like the two of them, Frodo and Sam, and how their attitude about the whole journey changed for the story. Like at the beginning, I was mentioning Frodo was very reluctant hero. He very much wanted to go back to the Shire, stay in Rivendell, but he knew that if he stayed there, those places that he wanted to stay and live in peace would not be in peace anymore or for very long. But then by the end, they have gone so far. They're literally in the pits of Mordor, in the middle of Mordor, and they feel so far from home, and they don't even know if they're going to survive it. You know, they might save the world, but they likely won't live to tell the tale. They won't live to experience the saved world that they are trying to save. And their switch in their mentality of like, oh, how much food do we have? Do we have enough to last until we finish the task? They're not even trying to wonder like, oh, how are we going to make our way back home? Like, they're not even thinking about that. They've at this point realized they're so far from home, they're so far gone that they just need to finish up their one task with each other side by side, and that's it. And if they can do that, then they have succeeded. And once they switch to that mindset, their story is so much more emotional and heartbreaking. And yeah, just the feeling of feeling so homesick, feeling so far from home, I feel like that is so well done in this story. And then I mean, on the whole other side of things too, with the rest of our company, I really feel like Faramir and Eowyn's arcs are so cool, and the way they mirror each other as well, with their relationships with their fathers and their sense of responsibility and duty and what they want to do, and just how they clash with their fathers in different ways, was really interesting to read side by side, and how they both ended up almost in a similar position but in very different ways was really, really good to read about. But we are basically at the end. As I mentioned, we're in the epilogue part of the story, and I don't want it to be over, but I'm gonna continue and finish reading The Return of the King. Well, here we are, just the four of us that started out together, said Merry. We have left all the rest behind, one after another. It seems almost like a dream that has slowly faded. Not to me, said Frodo. To me, it feels more like falling asleep again. You guys, that's it for now, I guess. Oh, that was such a good experience reading through this entire trilogy. I know I have a lot of lore to read up on. We have hundreds of pages of those appendix pages, but I don't think I'm gonna get to those just yet. I may revisit them at a later date, but that's the story. I just finished it. That last battle at the Shire was something I did not expect. I did not remember that at all from the books. I don't know how I would enjoy the books themselves as their own entity if I didn't already have all of this knowledge and love for the world, because I do feel like parts of it are maybe a little bit dense, and some parts might be a little difficult to read, especially because they are written in that classics style of writing, and I do tend to feel like my brain has to work a little harder when I'm reading classics like this. I feel like it would have been a bit more of a difficult read to get through if I didn't have the prior knowledge of the movies, but going in with the knowledge that I had, I really enjoyed this experience. I don't really know how to rate these books because I'm so biased going into them, and I realize I'm so biased going into them, but this was like a 5-star experience for me, so I think I have no other option but to rate all of these books 5 stars, being fully aware of my personal and previous bias. Okay, it's a couple days later. I am in fact reading The Hobbit currently, but I thought it'd be fun to just finish off this video by making some lembas bread, because you know, I've been reading about lembas bread for so long. I've just been reading about our characters eating this elven way bread, and I'm like, I want to taste this for myself. So there are a couple of different lembas bread recipes floating out there, but I think the one I have chosen to make is the most canon. It's the most commonly used, at least. I know there's an official Tolkien cookbook, but I don't have that, so I don't know if this is the version that is in the Tolkien cookbook or if it's something else, but whatever it is, it's the most common lembas bread recipe based on my 10 minutes of research. We're gonna be elves today, and we're gonna make some lembas bread and see what all the hype is all about. I actually can't believe how cute these turned out. Like, look at that. I want to taste test one though, because I want to see what these actually taste like. The appearance of them definitely looks scone-y, I would say. Definitely just looks like kind of a scone. But let's have a taste test and see what lembas bread actually tastes like. It basically tastes like a scone. It's slightly sweet. It is quite dense because, you know, it is supposed to fill you up for an entire day. You can taste, yeah, just a subtle sweetness from the honey and the brown sugar, and the texture, I would say, is like a scone, but maybe a little softer than a scone, I would say. But these would be actually really good with like butter and jam, or if we had like clotted cream, like if we just treated these like real scones, that would be really, really good actually. I'm actually still quite full from breakfast, but I can't stop eating this. Ooh, or like with a tea. That would be really good. Okay, well, lembas bread has been baked and tasted. And so I think I'm just gonna wrap this video up here for now. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed just nerding out with me this past 10 days, I wanna say. And thank you for joining me on the side quest of baking lembas bread because I just needed to know what it tasted like. But that being said, if you did enjoy this video, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know who your favorite Lord of the Rings character is. Or no, let me know if you had to be one Lord of the Rings species, like if you were a hobbit, a dwarf, an elf, a man, or an orc, or anything else, a wizard, or an eagle. Let me know what you think you would be. I'm for sure a hobbit. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!